अखण्डमण्डलाकारम् व्याप्तं येन चराचरम् तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। अज्ञानातिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। गुरुब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव त्वमेव विद्या द्रवीणं त्वमेव सर्वं मम देवदेव त्वमेव सर्वं मम देवदेव। हरि ओम।
I did not, I think, assign last time to anyone. I just, we will do it here. We will begin. Batya Uma. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Shuklam Baradharam Vishnum Chashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasanna Vadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye Narayanam Padmabhuvam Vasishtam Shaktim cha Tatputra Parasharam cha Vyasam Shukam Gaudapadam Mahantam Govinda Yogindram Ata Asya Shishyam Shri Shankaracharyam Ata Asya Padmapadam cha Hastamalakam cha Shishyam Tam Totakam Vartikakaram Anyanasmadgurun Santatamana Tosmi Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhi Tamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Srimad Bhagavad Gita Dhyana Shlokaha Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamrutavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatvamanusandadhami Bhagavad Gita Bhavatveshini Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Ullara Vindayata Patra Netra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purna Prajwalito Jnanamaya Pradipa Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraika Panaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Gitamritaduhe Namah Sarvopanishado Gavo Dogdha Gopala Nandana Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Dugdham Gitamrutam Mahat Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Bhishmadronataka Jayadratha Jala Gandhara Nilopala Shalyagrahavati Kripena Vahani Karnena Velakula Ashwathama Vikarna Gora Makara Duryodhana Vattini सोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरणनदी कैवर्तक केशवः पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलम् गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटम् नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधना बोधितम् लोके सज्जन षट्पदैरहरः तेपीयमानं मुदा भूयात् भारत पंकजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसि न श्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्र रुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो शान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः. We'll go to the 6th chapter. We'll go to verse 40. Shri Bhagawanuvacha Parthanaiveha namutra Vinashastasya vidyate nahi kalyana kaschit
Durgatim tata gacchati
प्राप्य पुण्यकृतां लोकान् उचित्वा शाश्वती समाः शुचीनां श्रीमतां ये भ्रष्टोऽभिजायते अथवा योगिनामेव कुले भवति धीमताम् एतद्धि दुर्लभतरम् के जन्म यदीदृशम् तत्र तं बुद्धिसंयोगम् लभते पौर्वदेहिकम् यतते च ततो भूयः संसिद्धौ कुरु नन्दन पूर्वाभ्यासेन तेनैव क्रियते ह्यवशोऽपि सः जिज्ञासुरपि योगस्य शब्दब्रह्माति वर्तते प्रयत्नाद्यतमानस्तु योगी संशुद्ध किल्बिषः अनेकजन्म संसिद्धः ततो याति परां गतिम् तपस्विभ्योऽधिको योगी ज्ञानिभ्योऽपि मतोऽधिकः कर्मिभ्यश्चाधिको योगी तस्माद् योगी भवार्जुन योगिनामपि सर्वेषां मद्गतेनान्तरात्मना श्रद्धावान् भजते यो मां स मे युक्ततमो मतः. ओम तत्सत् इति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुन संवादे आत्मसंयमयोगो नाम षष्ठोऽध्यायः. अथ सप्तमोऽध्यायः ज्ञानविज्ञानयोगः. श्रीभगवानुवाच मय्यासक्तमनः पार्थ योगं युञ्जन्मदाश्रयः असंशयं समग्रं माम् यथा ज्ञास्यसि तच्छृणु ज्ञानं तेहं सविज्ञानं idam vakshyamya sheshatah yajñatva neha bhuyonyat natauvyamavashishyate manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatataamapi siddhanam kaschinmam vetti tattvataha. So we stopped here in the last class. So before get to that, there is no class next 2 weeks. That is the 30th of this month and 7th of August. We will meet on the 14th next. So Dattatreya, are you going to be here at 14th of August? You can do the opening prayer.
I'll be traveling and then so not possible.
All right, Venkatram, you are okay with that date? Everybody has a doubt. All right. All right, it's too far away. We will do it and then we will go from there. All right. All right. So the Krishna says here, he has taught so far the Dhyana Yoga, and now he says, I am going to teach you Asamshayam Samagram Mam, without a doubt, you will come to know me in the entirety. And Yata Jnasasi Tachuno, how we are going to know it, now you are going to listen to that. And for that, Yogam Yunjan Vadashtrayaha, you have to seek me as your refuge in yoga. Jnanam Teham Savijnanam Idam Vaksham Yasheshasaha. I am going to teach you the intellectual knowledge, and Savijnanam means the experiential knowledge. Once you know the intellectual knowledge, then you apply that intellectual knowledge in the yoga of dhyana, and then you will, with that, I'm going to tell you both the intellectual knowledge and the experiential knowledge, knowing which there is nothing else to be known. I'm going to teach you completely, and knowing which there is nothing else to be known. Yajñatva neha bhuyonyate gnatavya mavashishyate. What needs to be known? There is nothing else to be known. What he is intending is, if you know the gold, then all the gold ornaments are known. Everything is gold. The nature of gold ornament is gold. So knowing Paramatma, all the entire universe will be known. That is what he is meaning here. We will see that how. And he warns Arjuna, this is not an easy task. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatat siddhaye. Among many thousands of people, only one will even try for this intellectual knowledge. That's what he means to say. Yatati siddhaye, those who try. First, there is a fully able to understand the intellectual knowledge, have Shraddha in it, and then you start doing the dhyana, the yoga, with that intellectual knowledge. And he says only one in a few in thousands is going, one in many thousands is going to be coming to this point. Even among them, some rare person gets to know me completely without anything else to be known. That is what he says in third verse. Then we came to the last class. Bhumirapo nalo vayuhu kammano buddhirevacha ahankara iti yamme bhinna prakriti rashtada. So this is where we were. We will revisit this. Bhumirapo nalo vayuhu kammano buddhirevacha ahankara iti yamme bhinna prakriti rashtada. So earth, water, fire, air, and space, these are the 5 subtle elements. And mind, intellect, and ego of the aggregate, not the individual. We are not talking, still creation has not happened. Therefore, we are talking of the mind, intellect, and ego of the aggregate. These are the 8 distinct components of my Prakriti, he says. So what are they? this we have to understand very clearly what Krishna is meaning here, because there is a similar arrangement or a description in Sankhya that we are going to study here. The Apara Prakriti and the Sankhya model, it describes that Pradhana, what is that's an inert material, is the material cause of the universe. And this Pradhana is a Sankhya term. It's like a brand name for Prakriti. Prakriti is the generic name for the nature, and then they have given a brand identity to that called the Pradhana. So Pradhana is the seed form of the universe. What is this Prakriti or Pradhana? Both are the seed form of the universe. And this seed form then evolves into Mahat, Ahankara, and these are all again the of the aggregate. And from the Ahankara or the ego come 5 subtle elements: space, air, fire, water, and earth. This Pradhana, in the form of a seed, it transforms to Mahat, Ahankara, and these are the Tanmatras. Now, the Sankhya model says this is independent of Purusha, that you don't need the help of a Purusha for this creation to take place, which is very opposed to Vedanta system. Vedanta, the Purusha is the independent and the Prakriti is the dependent. Therefore, Krishna has here meant to be the Vedanta terminology, but there could be a misunderstanding of this by the seekers, having confusion between Vedantic terminology and the Sankhya terminology. And so far as Sri Shankaracharya, who comes to help to resolve this, whatever confusion that we may have, he resolves with his commentary. This is what he says. This Pradhana that we are talking in the Vedantic terminology, it is called Ahankara, ignorance associated, Avyakta. Avyakta is unmanifest, and that is another way of Prakriti, another name for Prakriti, and which is Pradhana in the case of the Sankhya model. All right. So the Buddhi, what they call the Mahat Tattva, so we have replaced the Pradhana with Ahankara. Then the Sankhya term of Mahat is replaced by what is called Buddhi, which is the source of Ahankara. Buddhi is the source of Ahankara. And the Sankhya term of Ahankara is replaced with Manas, mind. Again, these are all of the aggregate. So this remains the same between Vedanta and Sankhya. What Vedanta believes is that this Pradhana or this Prakriti is dependent on the Purusha, that we'll see in the next slide. Whereas once this process has started, when you come up to this point, then the rest of the model between Vedanta and Sankhya are one and the same. Now, Vedanta believes they don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. So whatever is applicable to their philosophy from other sources, other darshan shastras, they will accept it. But where it is necessary to deviate from it, they will deviate from it. That's the philosophy of the Vedantic philosophy itself. So if we substitute these for the Pradhana, Mahat, and Ahankara, we substitute other terminology that Vedanta says, this is what the model looks like. So how did they come to this point is at the individual level. First, they went to the individual level, in me and you. The manas or the mind, there's a thought in the mind is generated, and that thought is generated. The cause of that thought is the ahankara or the ego. I thought so, I did so, I want to do so. These are all the thoughts, the thought vritti that happens in the mind. And that comes because there is a ahankara associated with it. I is an ahankara, that is with respect to the body. I in Vedanta is not the body. but having an identification with the body is called ahankara, and having an identification with the body, this I thought so, or I will do this, these are all thoughts, and therefore ahankara becomes the source of the mind. And therefore, we use, instead of the ahankara, we use the mind as a product. It can be identified by the source, like a gold ornament can be identified by gold itself. If there's nothing wrong in showing a gold ornament and say this is gold. So in that sense, the mind, source of mind is ahankara, and therefore in Vedanta, we replace this ahankara of the Sankhya with mind. Now, this ahankara is permeated by ignorance. Why did this ahankara come? Because I don't know my real self. If I know my real self, then there is no ahankara at all. I, as Atma, there is only one Atma, and there is no separation required. But because of the ignorance, ahankara comes into picture, and this ignorance is because of ahankara. Self-ignorance is the cause of ahankara. Therefore, in ignorance drives ahankara, ahankara drives manas. This is what we discuss here, that the Vedantic terminology, ahankara, buddhi, and manas. Now, when we apply this, this is what it looks like. In the last time I did this, I tried to put all of them into one picture, and it was probably confusing. I now try to reword this and reform this. So this is the human model that we are talking about: ignorance, buddhi, ahankara, and ignorance of the self. And that is, in the domain of buddhi. Ahankara, from that comes ahankara, and from that comes manas. So what this, we had given this avyakta, that is where this ahankara generates. So that's why I have shown this by a dotted line here. And then this ahankara is the source of mahatattva, is the source of ahankara, that is avyakta, nothing different there. And then this ahankara becomes the source of manas. So, and then later on, it is the same model as the Sankhya. So there's a translation required from the Sankhya to get to the Vedantic model, and that is what we are showing here. This is also a little difficult to conceive, but I have given an explanation that possibly, I don't know if there's a better way to say it. I will come up with that. But for now, this is about the translation between Sankhya to Vedanta. So this Mahatattva, again, another thing that we have to note here is, see, in the previous Sankhya model, we did not show the Atma or the Brahma, because Purusha is not there. Purusha and Prakriti are both independent entities, whereas Vedanta does not believe that. Here, the Atma, the Brahma is the independent, and this Prakriti or Avyakta is dependent on that. And therefore, we show the Atma also here to complete the Vedantic model. And this entire thing is called Samashti Antakarana, or the aggregate internal organs, the Mahatattva, Ahankara, and Manas. Mahatattva being Buddhi, and Ahankara, and then Manas. And then here, this is, because it has, in our mind, there is a sentience developed, because the mind, in close proximity with the Atma, the mind is, the consciousness imparts sentiousness to sentiency to the antakarana. That is what, like the iron filings move in the presence of magnet, like that in the presence of the Atma, the mind being so subtle, there is some small movement in the mind. And that movement is then transmitted through the prana, and the prana activates our muscles and various joints of the physical body, and then that is how we get chetana, the movement. So this sentiency comes through the manas, because of the presence of the Atma. The Atma by itself does not do anything. Atma just sits there. But all of the other entities that can interact with the Atma, they derive the sentiency and they can do the action. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, there is a statement there. Bishasmadvata pavate bishodeti suryaha bishasmadagnischendrascha nityurdavati panchama iti. The Brahma, the Atma does not interact in any way, but these specially powered entities like air, the sun, etc., they Bisha means by fear, by the fear of this Atma, they get into action. That is what the Taittiriya Upanishad says, which we can see in like in our own families. We know that some parents, fathers are very strict. Children behave certain way in the presence of the father, and they behave differently in the absence of the father. So it's like that. Again, we say Bishodeti Suryaha. We know that the sun does not rise by itself. It's an arrangement that is there, that the movement of the earth makes as if the sun is rising. So because of this presence of the Atma, all these are empowered to act. That is what that meaning has to be taken. And like that, in the individual, because of the presence of the Atma, the mind gets its power, and that power is called sentiency, and that sentiency drives the entire body in the actions that it has to complete. Having said this, we will now move on to a little more explanation in terms of words. So the Prakriti is composed of 8 distinct elements that Krishna has listed. That's what Bhumi is the Tanmatra having this is the subtle element having the characteristic of smell. And then we will get the gross earth through a process we have discussed earlier. Similarly, water has the taste, fire has the form, air has the touch, and space has the sound as the tanmatras. And so those 5 tanmatras. The manas or mind is to be understood as the aggregate ego of the Sankhya. Whatever Sankhya said as the ego or ahankara, that we will interpret as mind based on the individual model. So this manas is responsible for the creation. The aggregate ego is responsible for the creation of the mind. Buddhi or intellect is to be of the buddhi or intellect of the Sankhya is to be understood as the source of ahankara, called by Mahatattva. And ahankara is described as the unmanifest, the avyakta of the pradhana, associated with avidya and ignorance. Because of the ignorance only, we end up in that avyakta. If I knew myself, I knew the self that I am, then I would be liberated. I would not be waiting in line to be reborn again in the next kalpa, next cycle of creation. Because of that ignorance only, I ended up in that avyakta, in that unmanifest. Otherwise, I would have been liberated. I would have been the Purusha. So that is what is meant here. Associated with avidya, ignorance means the entire avyakta is associated with ignorance, and because of that ignorance, we all land in that avyakta. Okay. So the Prakriti, unmanifest, is the source of the Jagat or the universe. This avyakta, the unmanifest, as we saw in the picture, ultimately translates to 5 elements, and from the 5 elements, everything else comes in the universe. So the unmanifest is the source of the Jagat or the universe. However, this is the example that Shankaracharya gives. How a poisonless food is called poison. Likewise, here the unmanifest associated with ahankara is called ahankara. Because the unmanifest has an ahankara because of the ignorance. If the ignorance was not there, then ahankara would not be there. Because it has the ignorance, it is also ahankara. That's how that relation is. So the ahankara is the source of everything to follow. Once that ahankara, I-ness comes, as we see in our individuals also, I see, I walk, everything that follows in our life is because of its association with the body, and similar association is given with respect to the avyakta or the unmanifest. So the ego drives all activities in this universe. So Krishna says, like this, my prakriti is Maya, Maya, that is my power, and it puts the entire creation process into action because of my prakriti or Maya. So avyakta or unmanifest, mahat, ahankara, and 5 tanmatras. These 8 are the prakriti according to the Sankhya philosophy, and we have used that terminologies in a slightly different way in Vedanta. Avyakta is the nature of the triad of gunas of proclivities. That means in the avyakta, all the gunas that we had in the previous universe are stored, sattva, rajas, and tamas, and that is what is called the nature of the triad of gunas or proclivities. These 8 are independent and do not have another source or cause according to Sankhya system. We said earlier that the Sankhya's consider Purusha and Prakriti as 2 independent entities, and they get into a lot of trouble with that. If they are independent, then why do they have to even exist at all? And then they say that the Purusha is for the benefit of the Purusha to work out his karma. Then the Vedanta questions him back. If you say it is for the benefit of the karma Purusha, you already said it's asanga, it is detached from the Purusha. Then how are you going to say that you will this Prakriti provides for the enjoyment of the Purusha? So there is a lot of when you get into the arguments, these are all the back and forth arguments that come between them. But anyway, they have maintained this because Sattva Sankhya is one of the first philosophies to be developed. And because of that, they have developed so many things. Even the guna, it comes to us from Sankhya's. So Vedanta disputes this independence. That avyakta, also called avyakrita in another sense, is the power called Maya, and it is the power of Ishvara, is the opinion of Vedanta. So that's a dependent. That avyakta is dependent. Maya is the power of the Purusha, and being the power of the Purusha, it is dependent on the Purusha. These 8 components of the inferior Prakriti, Krishna calls Apara Prakriti. These 8 components of the inferior Prakriti of Ishvara, they are the raw materials of the universe. Out of this comes the universe. Therefore, it is called, this Prakriti is called the raw materials of the universe, by which the universe is created. So the entities of the universe, past, present, and future, everything is a product of this Prakriti. By declaring these as my lower Prakriti, Krishna has already said this is my lower Prakriti, Krishna declares them as not independent. So this is the clue that the commentators use. If it was dependent, only then you can say it is lower Prakriti. If it is independent, there is no reason to say that it is inferior. So like the Sankhya philosophers posit, they are under the control of Ishvara. So Krishna calls them inferior because they are finite and causes bondage to the Purusha. Why it is called lower or the inferior Prakriti? That is because that's the one that binds the people. And so binding the people is a strike against that, and that is why it is called the inferior Prakriti. So it is universally accepted that every effect must have a cause. In our experience, we know that a object cannot come by itself. It must have a cause associated with that. So the universe is experienced, therefore, universe is inert. It has no ability to create itself. So it must have a sentient cause associated with it. The universe cannot come by itself. Therefore, there must be another force which is sentient and it can that force or the sentient force is the driver for the creation of the universe. So the sentient cause could be understood to be an intelligent cause. So like if you want to make a table out of wood, wood becomes the material cause, and the carpenter becomes the intelligent cause, or the nimitta karana in Sanskrit, they say. And here, the wood remains with the table through the creation, sustenance of the table, and final destruction of the table. In all these cases, from the beginning to the end, the wood is present in the table. That is the nature of the material cause. Whereas the carpenter does not stay with the table all the time. If the carpenter makes the table, he is there at the time of the creation, and then he may be called upon at the time of destruction also to put it in a certain order or what, but he doesn't really sustain during the sustenance period. So who is that intelligent cause? Now, if there is an intelligent cause, we have so far by declaring these 8 elements as the material cause, now we put into question here that anything cannot come by itself, therefore it needs an intelligent cause, and therefore the universe also must have an intelligent cause. If the material cause is these 8 elements, who is the intelligent cause of that? And Krishna claims that he is that intelligent cause. He discusses that in the next verse that we are going to study after learning this verse. Bhumi apaha analaha vayuhu.
Bhumihi apaha analaha vayuhu. Bhumihi apaha analaha vayuhu.
Kham manaha buddhihi evacha.
Kham manaha buddhihi evacha. Kham manaha buddhihi evacha.
Bhumirapo nalo vayuhu. Kham mano buddhirevacha.
Bhumirapo nalo vayuho. Kham mano buddhirevacha. Bhumirapo nalo vayuho. Kham mano buddhirevacha. Bhumirapo nalo vayuho. Kham mano buddhirevacha.
Ahankara iti iyam me.
Ahankara iti iyam me. Ahankara iti iyam me.
Bhinna prakritihi ashtada.
Bhinna prakritihi ashtada. Bhinna prakritihi ashtada.
Ahankara iti iyam me. Bhinna prakritirashtadha.
Ahankara iti iyam me. Bhinna prakritirashtadha. Ahankara iti iyam me. Bhinna prakritirashtadha. Ahankara iti iyam me. Bhinna prakritirashtadha.
Bhumirapo nalo vayuhu. Kham mano buddhirevacha. Ahankara iti iyam me. Bhinna prakritirashtadha.
Bhumirapo nalo vayuhu. Kham mano buddhirevacha. Ahankara iti iyam me. Bhinna prakritirashtadha. Bhumirapo nalo vayuhu. Kham mano buddhirevacha. Ahankara iti iyam me. Bhinna prakritirashtadha. Bhumirapo nalo vayuhu. Kham mano buddhirevacha. Ahankara iti iyam me. भिन्ना प्रकृतिरष्टधा
2, 3, and 4. Jnanam teham savijnanam idam vakshamya sheshatah yajnatva neha bhuyonyat ज्ञातव्यमवशिष्यते मनुष्याणां सहस्रेषु कश्चिद्यतति सिद्धये यततामपि सिद्धानां कश्चिन्मां वेत्ति तत्त्वतः भूमिरापो नलो वायुः खं मनो बुद्धिरेव च अहंकार इति यं मे भिन्ना प्रकृतिरष्टधा. So having defined this raw materials of the universe, now the Krishna is trying to go into address the intelligent cause of this universe that we will see in the next verse. Apareyamitastvanyam prakritim vidhi me param Jiva bhuta mahabaho yayedam dharyate jagat. So iyam itaha tu aparaha. These 8 he has described. These 8 are my inferior nature aparaha. Anyam me param prakritim vidhi. Now you come to know my other superior nature. What is that superior nature? We will see that's the sentient nature. Mahabhavo Arjuna. Jiva bhutam yaya idam dharyate jagati. That is superior nature, the sentient nature. The entire living beings in this universe are supported by this sentient nature. If the sentiency is not there, I am not there. If the sentiency is not there, an animal is not there. So the entire living beings in this universe, Jiva Bhutam, he uses with the very clearly, not to mistake it with rocks and mountains and like that. So the living beings that are animate, the entire living beings in this universe are supported by this superior nature or the higher nature of mind. So he says, no, my superior nature, this is the life-sustaining principle of all beings, which supports the universe. The universe cannot exist in the form that we see without the presence of this living concept, this life-sustaining principle. If that is not there, then everything will be in the avyakta. That life-sustaining principle is not there. That means we are all dead, and that is the end of the cycle, and will be in the avyakta. So for this avyakta to be in the form of vyakta manifest, this life-sustaining principle is the most important, and therefore he calls it the superior nature. So, having described the inferior nature in the previous verse, he says that is lower, impure, and calamitous. It is harmful. Why? Because it binds the living beings in transmigration, in samsara. It is that prakriti of the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, is what binds the living beings in taking birth and death, birth and death. So these 8 components of inferior nature and the superior nature, that is the sentiency, they both belong to the Supreme Purusha. So the same Purusha has both the prakritis. In the 4th verse, he talked that is my lower prakriti, those 8 elements. Now in this says this is my para prakriti, that I am going to this what life-sustaining principle is the para prakriti. So para prakriti is the innateness or the swabhava of the Ishvara. I, the Atma, am different from the above Prakriti and is known as the superior Prakriti. Now, this superior Prakriti, this is the one that is life-sustaining, without which there is no life, is of the nature of consciousness. Consciousness is what drives sentience behavior in the body. And so that is why it is called the Para Prakriti, and that is described as Swarupa. Swarupa of Ishvara. So Swabhava and Swarupa, there is no real, English words to describe that. Swabhava is the innateness, the appearance, outside appearance, if you will. And the Swarupa is what drives the activities in the beings. So I manifest as Jiva, the living principle, the support for prana. I discussed earlier how the sentiency in the mind drives the prana, and the prana drives the other limbs and all aspects of our body, and the five motor organs, it drives them. And then that is what causes the animation in beings. And therefore it is called the higher nature. The apara and para prakriti, they are both the prakritis of Ishvara. It is not coming, there is nothing beyond Ishvara. That is what he is trying to establish. The Ishvara has these two, para prakriti and apara prakriti. And without the union of the superior prakriti with the union with the inferior prakriti, there is no universe in an individual. I have the body, that is the apara prakriti, and I have the sentiency due to the presence of the Atma, that is the para prakriti. And therefore, only when the union of this para prakriti and apara prakriti takes place, then only is the life. Then only there is the universe. Otherwise, everything will be in avyakta. So, thus the superior prakriti of Ishvara is sustaining the inferior prakriti of the form of inert. So, all these 8 components of inert, aspects of individual and the universe, they are driven by the superior prakriti of the Ishvara. That is what is called the para prakriti. And this para prakriti wears the apara prakriti. How does this happen? In the Upanishads, what they say is, having created the apara prakriti, he enters that Tadeva Anupravishat, the Taittiriya Upanishad says. So he enters into it. It's as if by entering, you should not physically take it as he came from somewhere, because the Atma pervades everywhere. So it's only a symbol, symbolically saying he enters it. He enters it, and once he enters into the apara prakriti, and in the apara prakriti, subtle elements like mind, they are able to use the power of the consciousness and create sentiency that way. Sentiency is not something that is real per se. That is, as we go along, we see that it is only an appearance, and that appearance drives the activities of the body. So the pure sattva para prakriti in the form of jiva. So what is the nature of this para prakriti? It has no rajas and tamas. It is pure sattva. So sattva para prakriti in the form of jiva, that is the life sustainer, is the support for the creation and expansion of the universe. So this aspect lies with the Ishvara. Ishvara is the one who has both the para prakriti and apara prakriti, and the subtle part of his apara prakriti makes use of the pure sattva of the para prakriti, and then the sentiency develops, and then all the creation continues from that point. So the consciousness, the mind, that is the antakarana, and the reflection of the consciousness in the mind. The reflection of the consciousness in the mind is the sentiency. So the reflection, as I said, the iron filings moves because of the presence of the magnet. The copper filings, if they don't move in the presence of the magnet. So the copper filings is like the grosser aspects of the body, and the iron filings is like the subtler aspects of the body, like the mind. And when the subtler aspect of the mind, the iron filings moves, it also has a tendency to move the copper also as it moves. So that is how this body, the grosser aspects of the body receive movement from the sentiency. So the example is given. This is a beautiful example. The sunlight or consciousness falls on the mirror. The consciousness is in brackets that I'm using to reflect on our consciousness in the body. So the sunlight is the example, consciousness is the exemplified. So the sunlight falls on the mirror, and the exemplified is mind. So conscious falls on the mind, like that. So the light of the sun reflected from the mirror, it falls on the wall, and this reflection moves in the wall. We have seen this as the day progresses. If a window is open, the light coming from the window, it opens, it moves. Like that, if you have a mirror there, instead of the light hitting directly the wall, let us say, the sunlight hits the mirror, and the mirror is reflecting that particular area of light on the mirror, on the wall. Now, when the mirror reflects the light on the light on the wall keeps moving. That's one aspect of it. Now, the sunlight itself, because the windows and doors are open, it lights up the walls. So there is a lighted up wall, and there is a reflected light from the mirror on the wall. The reflected light from the mirror on the wall moves, whereas the direct light that the wall received from the sun through the open windows and doors, that does not move. So what that does not move is the consciousness. What moves is the sentiency. That is the aspect of the jiva in the body. So even before the reflection fell on the wall, the direct sun's rays are falling on the mirror. So there are two aspects here. The sun rays are falling on the wall, sun rays are falling on the mirror. So the direct sun's light on the wall, that forms the equivalent of the consciousness in the body. That is the Ishvara, that's non-moving part. Now the reflected light on the wall, that receives, it comes from the mirror, that is the jiva. So that jiva is associated with movement. It's like Ishvara is the direct light falling on the wall does not move, and the reflected light from the mirror falling on the wall moves. So that moving entity is called the jiva. And so likewise, there is the consciousness that is in the body. This consciousness, when it fades the mind, there's a reflected consciousness from the mind, and that reflected consciousness is called sentiency, and this sentiency is associated with movement. The jiva, that is how the jiva is associated with movement. Therefore, all the three, the consciousness, the mind, and the reflection of the consciousness in the mind, these three together form the jiva. Now, if the consciousness were not to be there, then there is no reflection of the consciousness. Just like if all your windows and doors are completely sealed, there is no light coming in, the wall is dark, equally at the same time, there is no light falling on the mirror, so there is no jiva also. There's no movement of the reflected light on the wall, and everything is dark and there is no jiva, there is no light. Like that, this consciousness also is what makes the jiva alive, by the reflection of the consciousness in the mind. So therefore, all the three are necessary for the jiva to function. The consciousness should be there, that is the Atma, and this consciousness must reflect the consciousness in the Antakarana, that becomes the sentient part, and then there is the physical body or the mind. Mind is there. So all these three together forms the jiva, and then it drives the body. So without the life sustainer, the body of 5 elements or the mind, intellect, and ego cannot sustain. That's what we just established. As long as the upadhi of the antakarana is there in the body, the jiva exists, and when the upadhi leaves the body, the jivaness or the jivahood in the body disappears. What is the upadhi? Antakarana is the upadhi. So the upadhi, we said earlier, I think in the other class, upadhi is the limiting adjunct of the atma. So the mind is the limiting adjunct of the atma, and being limiting because the sentiency is not equal to the consciousness. Sentiency is something less than the consciousness, and that less of the sentiency in the body, in the mind, created in the mind because of being an upadhi of the consciousness, it drives the body. But when this antakarana becomes so pure, 100% sattva, like the consciousness itself, then there is no difference between consciousness and the reflected consciousness, that is the sentiency, and that is the liberation. But as long as there is a mind, which is the upadhi, is in the body, the jiva exists, the jivahood or the jivaness exists. But once the mind leaves, mind means antakarana, when the antakarana leaves the body, that is death, the jiva loses its identity, the jivaness or the jivahood in the body disappears. So this is the swarupa, the own form of the jiva. What is the swarupa? That it is there when there is a sentiency. It creates the sentiency in the body. That's the swarupa it will take us. So the jiva is the swarupa of this reflected light or the reflected consciousness is the swarupa of jiva, and this is the paraprakriti. The jiva wears the universe, that is the Paramatma indwelling in the body, appears as Jivatma and supports the inert entities. So there is really no real consciousness reflected separate from the consciousness itself. It is as if it's an appearance, and the Paramatma indwelling in the body, he appears as Jivatma, not a real entity Jivatma. If there were to be a real entity Jivatma, the Jivatma can never achieve Paramatma. Say real, what we have discussed earlier, it is exists past, present, and future. If the Jiva doesn't exist in all the three time frames, then it is an appearance. And if the Jiva appears in all the three time frames, like the Paramatma, like the Atma, then the Jivatma cannot be removed at all. If the Jivatma cannot be removed, then there is no liberation. So that distinction we have to understand, that the Jiva wears the universe only in a symbolic way, but there is no per se a Jiva that exists. It is the state. It is not a reality. That's what it means. So the Paraprakriti of Ishvara is not different from Ishvara, because that is his property. Is not the property of gold shines. So gold itself shines like that. So the property is not different from the object of which it is a property. So both the Paraprakriti and Aparaprakriti are not different from Ishvara. The Aparaprakriti appears as gross body. The Paraprakriti enters and imparts sentiency to the body. So that consciousness is the one that imparts sentiency. Of these, the Paraprakriti is superior to the inferior Aparaprakriti. Vivekananda gives a nice example in this context. That is, he says, there is a train coming on a train track. There is a mosquito sitting on the train track somewhere further down. Now, the train is so huge compared to the mosquito, but the train is under the control of the train operator. The train is Aparaprakriti, whereas the mosquito is it has its own Paraprakriti. the jiva. So that para prakriti of the mosquito is superior to the apara prakriti of the train itself. Though the train is so huge, the train is cannot exert its own decision, whereas the mosquito can exert its own decision, and that para prakriti is superior to apara prakriti. He gives an example, nice example. So these two, para prakriti and apara prakriti of the Paramatma, they constitute the Jagat. Whatever Jagat we are seeing in front of us, we are seeing only the Paramatma, because these properties, the constituents of para and apara, that behavior is not different from the bearer of that behavior. So these two constitute the Jagat, the formless Paramatma, that is consciousness, with these two upadhis, the limiting adjunct is the cause of the universe. What are the two limiting adjuncts? The para prakriti and the apara prakriti. Okay, so that's the general description of this verse. Again, going back, we discussed the para prakriti, apara prakriti in the earlier verse. Now he discusses this para prakriti, which is the one that gives sentiency to the body and makes it a jiva. And that jiva, again, as we said earlier, is a temporary state. It is not a permanent state. If it's a permanent state, it stays past, present, and future, and it can never be deleted. And if that is the case, there is no moksha, and therefore we have to understand that it is only an appearance. The appearance can merge with the original, and that is the what we describe as moksha. Apara iyam itah tu anyam.
अपरायियम् इतः तु अन्याम् अपरायियम् इतः तु अन्याम्
Prakritim viddhi me param.
प्रकृतिं विद्धि मे पराम् प्रकृतिं विद्धि मे पराम्
Apareyamitastvanyam. Prakritim viddhi me param.
अपरेयमितस्त्वन्याम् प्रकृतिं विद्धि मे पराम् अपरेयमितस्त्वन्याम् प्रकृतिं विद्धि मे पराम् अपरेयमितस्त्वन्याम् प्रकृतिं विद्धि मे पराम्
Jiva bhuta mahabhaho.
जीवभूतां महाबाहो जीवभूतां महाबाहो
Yaya idam dharyate jagat.
यया इदं धार्यते जगत् यया इदं धार्यते जगत्
Jiva bhuta mahabhaho. Yayedam dharyate jagat.
जीवभूतां महाबाहो ययेदं धार्यते जगत् जीवभूतां महाबाहो ययेदं धार्यते जगत् जीवभूतां महाबाहो ययेदं धार्यते जगत्
Apareyamitastvanyam. Prakritim viddhi me param. Jiva bhuta mahabhaho. Yayedam dharyate jagat.
अपरेयमितस्त्वन्याम् प्रकृतिं विद्धि मे पराम् जीवभूतां महाबाहो ययेदं धार्यते जगत् अपरेयमितस्त्वन्याम् प्रकृतिं विद्धि मे पराम् जीवभूतां महाबाहो ययेदं धार्यते जगत् अपरेयमितस्त्वन्याम् प्रकृतिं विद्धि मे परां जीवभूतां महाबाहो ययेदं धार्यते जगत्
3, 4, and 5. मनुष्याणां सहस्रेषु कश्चिद्यतति सिद्धये यततामपि सिद्धानां कश्चिन्मां वेत्ति तत्त्वतः भूमिरापो नलो वायुः अहं मनो बुद्धिरेव च अहङ्कार इति यं मे भिन्ना प्रकृतिरष्टधा अपरेयमितस्त्वन्या प्रकृतिं विद्धि मे परां जीवभूता महाबाहो ययेदं धार्यते जगत्. So these two are the, in essence, the constituents of the universe, the apara prakriti and the para prakriti. And he says that in the next verse. Etad yonini bhutani sarvani tyupadharaya aham kritsnasya jagataha prabhava pralayastata. Etad sarvani bhutani yonini iti upadharaya. All the beings have emanated from these two natures, para prakriti and apara prakriti. Aham jagataha kritsnasya prabhavaha pralayaha tata. I am the source of the creation and dissolution of the entire universe. Jagataha kritsnasya. Kritsnasya jagataha means the entire universe. Aham prabhavaha pralayaha tata. I am the source of the creation and dissolution of the universe. So, in summary, know these two to be the source of all sentient and insentient, that is rocks and stones on the insentient, and all living beings sentient, and the origin and dissolution of the universe. So these two prakritis in the form of kshetra, field, and kshetrajna, knower of the field. Now these are terms we'll see in the 13th chapter more widely used, but this is another terminology used in Vedanta. Kshetra is all inanimate and kshetrajna is the animate. So in the body, the physical body is kshetra, inanimate, and the sentiency is the kshetrajna. So these are the sources of all beings, these two prakritis. So universe and its animate and inanimate are born of my superior and inferior prakriti. So he is delineating now. So the universe has inert and sentiency. They are the Paramatma's prakritis are both inert and sentiency. So the inert part goes to make the inanimate part of the object body, and the sentiency goes to make the animate part of the body. I am the source of this universe. I am therefore the cause of the birth of this world. Being the source, that from the avyakta comes the various steps and the tanmatras, and from there comes all the other aspects of the universe. So I am therefore the cause of the birth of this world. So the inert and insentient are the cause, are the source of every object in the universe. Now both are there. Even in a rock, there is the consciousness, but because it does not have the mind, it cannot develop sentiency. It's the mind being so subtle can develop sentiency, like the iron filings being moved by the magnets. So these two are not different from Ishvara. So every object has both the sentient and the inert, and these two are not different from Ishvara. Therefore, Ishvara is the material cause, Upadana Karana, and intelligent cause, Nimitta Karana of the universe. We said earlier, to make this table or to make a pot, you need wood or clay, and therefore that becomes the material part of the table or the pot. And then you need a carpenter or a pot maker to shape the wood or the clay to the respective designs. And therefore that person who shapes it must have the intelligence, the sentiency in him. And those are the nimitta karana, or the intelligence cause of this universe. So the two prakritis of Ishvara, para and apara, together make the intelligent cause and the upadana karana, material cause of the universe. The material cause being the source of the object, it inheres, that this stays with the object true and true. As long as the object exists, the material stays with the object. So in the object, it is not different from the object. So the material cause is not different from the object itself. The gold in ornament is not different from the ornament itself. So the intelligent cause responsible for the creation, sustenance, and dissolution of the effect, and is different from the object. So intelligent cause is different from the object. You have the goldsmith to make the object, to make the ornament, and then as the ornament is with you, you need say some repair or something like that. You go to the maintenance person, or go back to the goldsmith, and whatever repair you need to get done, you get done with him. So the intelligent cause is required for the sustenance of that. And when the gold is to be melted, then you go back to that person and reshape it to whatever shape you want. You need the goldsmith for that ornament to be reshaped. That is the dissolution. So he is there in all the three steps, but he is not there in the object itself. Ishvara is both of them, and the universe is not different from him. So this universe, because it's made out of the apara prakriti of Ishvara, therefore the universe is not different from Ishvara. And this universe is made into what it is by the intelligent cause of the Ishvara, that is the para prakriti. Therefore, that Ishvara is again the with the universe all the time. So these two prakritis being source of all beings, know it that I am the source of all beings. He is not different from his two prakritis, and therefore he is the source of all beings. And finally, at the time of death, they all come back to me as avyakta. They are hiding in me as avyakta. So I am the cause of its birth as well as its dissolution. The entire universe is born of Paramatma and merges in Paramatma. So through these two prakritis, I am the source of the universe. That is what he says here. Aham Krishnasya Jagataha Prabhavaha Pralayastata. Jagataha Krishnasya, or the entire universe. I am the originator. I am the dissolution, destroyer of the universe. Excuse me. Etad yonini bhutani.
एतत् योनीनि भूतानि एतत् योनीनि भूतानि
Sarvani iti upadharaya.
सर्वाणि इति उपधारय सर्वाणि इति उपधारय
Etad yonini bhutani. Sarvani iti upadharaya.
एतद्योनीनि भूतानि सर्वाणीत्युपधारय एतद्योनीनि भूतानि सर्वाणीत्युपधारय एतद्योनीनि भूतानि सर्वाणीत्युपधारय
अहं कृष्णस्य जगतः
अहं कृत्स्नस्य जगतः अहं कृत्स्नस्य जगतः
प्रभवः प्रलयः तथा
प्रभवः प्रलयः तथा प्रभवः प्रलयः तथा
अहं कृष्णस्य जगतः प्रभव प्रलयस्तथा
अहं कृत्स्नस्य जगतः प्रभवः प्रलयस्तथा अहं कृत्स्नस्य जगतः प्रभवः प्रलयस्तथा अहं कृत्स्नस्य जगतः प्रभवः प्रलयस्तथा
एतद्योनीनि भूतानि सर्वाणीत्युपधारय अहं कृष्णस्य जगतः प्रभव प्रलयस्तथा
एतद्योनीनि भूतानि सर्वाणीत्युपधारय अहं कृत्स्नस्य जगतः प्रभवः प्रलयस्तथा एतद्योनीनि भूतानि सर्वाणीत्युपधारय अहं कृत्स्नस्य जगतः प्रभवः प्रलयस्तथा एतद्योनीनि भूतानि सर्वाणीत्युपधारय अहं कृत्स्नस्य जगतः प्रभवः प्रलयस्तथा
4, 5, and 6. भूमिरापो नलो वायुः खं मनो बुद्धिरेव च अहङ्कार इति यं मे भिन्ना प्रकृतिरष्टधा अपरेयमितस्त्वन्यां प्रकृतिं विद्धि मे पराम् जीवभूता महाबाहो येदं धार्यते जगत् एतद्योनीनि भूतानि सर्वाणीत्युपधारय अहं कृष्णस्य जगतः प्रभव प्रलयस्तथा. So in these 3 verses, Krishna has described that he is not different from the universe, and universe is not different from him, by defining 2 characteristics of him, the 2 prakritis of him, para prakriti and apara prakriti. The para prakriti, apara prakriti forms the inanimate aspect of this universe, and the para prakriti forms the animate part of this universe, and therefore he is not different from the universe. So the question then comes, if he is not different from the universe, why do we see the universe? Why don't we see him directly? And that is where the sadhana has to be. That is, we are under the influence of Maya, and the Maya kind of hides his true form and presents the universe, and that happens because of the ignorance. I have the tamas prakriti, tamas guna, and that tamas is defined as ignorance, and I don't know myself. That is what I don't know the nature of Paramatma, I don't know the nature of myself, and therefore my sense organs project the, because I don't know them, my sense organs project the universe. Now, if like I have 5 sense organs, the universe has 5 sense objects made up of 5 sense objects. Each sense organ brings information about the universe to my mind, and based on my past experiences that are stored in the chitta, I compare the new information is every time compared with the old information and presents it as the universe. Once we get to self-knowledge, then this sense objects of that Maya curtain is removed, because I have no more ignorance. I see the Paramatma. That is the subject matter of the rest of this chapter. So the chapter talks about significantly about the Maya and its effect on all living beings, particularly human beings. Animals really don't have the ability to distinguish, though they're animate. They don't have the intellect developed, mind developed enough to distinguish between intellect, to have an intellect, let's put it that. So therefore, the human beings have the intellect given to distinguish between right and wrong, to distinguish between inert and animate, inert and consciousness. And that is what we will see in the rest of this chapter, describing the nature of the Paramatma and why we interact with the universe. We don't see the Paramatma as Paramatma, we see it as Jagat, of the universe. Attaha parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mai sarvamidam protam sutre manigana iva. He expands on this theme here. We will see this in the next class. Om sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. Om purnamada purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate purnasya purnamadaya purnameva vashishyate. Om shanti shanti shanti. So we will see you in, unless you have any questions, we will see you in 3 weeks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Keep reading, don't forget.
Thank you. Thank you. Namaskara. Thank you.
Namaskar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaskara.
Namaskara.
Namaskara.